Hi, everybody. I'm Richard Sher, and it's time to square off. And this week, our focus will be on the First Amendment to the Constitution. Is there still freedom of speech here in the United States? Let's meet this week's panelists. We have Andrew Langer, talk show host. We have Mark Steiner, talk show host and many other things. Making her square off debut is Aimee Schafer, who identifies herself as a conservative Christian. Aimee, good to have you with us on the team.
Good to be here.
It's good to have you. And once again, we welcome a square-off original panelist. This gentleman goes back to the very beginning of the show, almost 42 years ago. He is attorney Billy Murphy.
And just think, I'm 55 years old. How does
Right, you started when you were 10. It's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Well, as you all know, I'm sure, or maybe you don't, Jimmy Kimmel Live returned to the airways this past Tuesday evening after talks with ABC regarding comments that he made about Charlie Kirk's assassin and President Trump. Andrew, kick it off. What do you think about this?
Well, listen, I'm a free speech absolutist. I will fight tooth and nail for your right to say things that I vehemently disagree with. I will say, to the point where if you're going to spread misinformation, like if you're going to spread conspiracy theories, you have to understand that there are going to be consequences to this. I will say I was much more concerned locally when Marilyn Mosby's office was filing complaints with the FCC against Fox 45 and was vehemently opposed because they were literally trying to take them off the air because they didn't like the unfavorable reporting. This is a slightly different situation, but at the end of the day, I'm a free speech absolutist.
All right, Billy, what do you think?
I think that the freedom of speech is in very big difficulty in this country. Because as long as we have someone who's acting like a dictator, who wants to be a dictator, and is succeeding in being a dictator, we're at risk in so many areas. And so we speak at the pleasure of the king. And if he doesn't like what we say, we can suffer dire consequences. And it's funny, the young man who was murdered, and no murder is justifiable, was open about what he was saying, and he put everything that he was doing on the internet. And so it's odd that we were all warned after he was killed, that if we said anything about his background that was negative, we would be targeted. And that chilled a lot of people. And I think they're still chilled because if you're on the right, of course you want free speech because you want to be able to say what you have to say, but that doesn't talk about how you feel about your opponents. And so in America, your opponents don't have freedom of speech. The Republicans do. MAGA does.
Okay, let's welcome Aimee Schafer. Aimee, what do you think?
I disagree with that very much. I feel as being a conservative Christian, especially since Charlie Kirk spoke conservatively Christian ways, my speech to be able to express myself has definitely been squashed way more than a Democratic side. So I absolutely disagree with that.
Well, but that's proof of a lack of freedom of speech.
I guess if you're looking at freedom of speech personally, I am not on the air. I don't get to voice my opinion. This is my first time ever doing something publicly about my feelings. But I do feel when you are having millions of viewers, you should be kind of around, moderate. You should not lean one way or the other.
All right, Mark, and then we'll get to Andrew.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Mark.
So, freedom of speech, A, is under attack by Donald Trump and his administration. That's very clear. B, I'm not sure what you were talking about in terms of being evangelical and having free speech when the evangelical churches own huge portions of the media and have plenty to say. Nobody's stopping people from saying what they want to say. But I think the danger here is not evangelicals and not the left and not liberals and not true conservatives. The danger is the authoritarian streak that sits in the White House and the threat they are to our very democracy. That's the danger.
Okay, so here's the thing. I may be the only one in this panel who has been censored and been censored because of the actions of an administration. So when I do a show, we've had Jerry Rogers on this show before. Jerry Rogers, my best buddy, is the editor of Real Clear Policy and the editor of Real Clear Health. And we did a number of different podcasts about the pandemic and about the science. And Jerry was reading everything. And all of a sudden, we found out that one of the shows that we'd done about the pandemic was taken down by YouTube. And we just learned this week that it was taken down by YouTube, or YouTube was taking down videos because of pressure from the Biden administration. So the idea that this is somehow evidence that Donald Trump is an authoritarian, I think, is false. I think, again, going back to when you are Marilyn Mosby here at home and you are trying to get the license taken away from a news outlet in town because you don't like how they're reporting on your office, I think that is just as emblematic of authoritarianism coming from the left towards the right than anything else here. And at the end of the day, right, both are bad. Brendan Carr, who I have a great deal of respect for and have known for a long time, I don't like it when Brendan Carr is out there putting pressure on the Jimmy Kimmels of the world, who, let's be fair, was being censured not because he voiced an opinion, but because he proffered a conspiracy theory about who the alleged shooter was. The same Jimmy Kimmel, who, by the way, took a victory lap over Tucker Carlson being fired for proffering conspiracy theories. You don't have a right to proffer conspiracy theories on the public airwaves without consequences.
Aimee, I saw you nodding. Billy, 1 second. You will be next.
Aimee, I thought you were calling on me.
No. No. I'll always call on you first. Aimee,
Yes.
You were nodding as Andrew was making his comment. What were you nodding about? Explain that.
Well, I do agree. I think that it has happened on both sides. And I think that that's where we have to remember it really should not matter what side you're on. Nobody should lose their freedom of speech, but also people should be respectful in their speech, especially when you are touching millions of people.
But that's never been America. America is rowdy. America can say and do whatever they want to do as long as they don't cry fire in a crowded theater. Free speech is, especially when you deal with political speech, then there should be no limits on political speech. And people can be wrong, and they can't be censored because somebody thinks they're wrong or because they're wrong. Free speech is, if you're an absolutist, that's what you believe. Now, do we want people to be responsible when they talk? Of course we do. And networks have regulations. There are certain things that have always been off limits on television. For example, you couldn't use profanity. You couldn't say fuck. You couldn't say shit. You couldn't do anything. But now it's wide open because there are so many speech channels. There are so many places where speech is robust and unfettered. But we have a king now, and that changes everything. Biden wasn't a king. Biden wasn't a king.
Wait, Mark Steiner, hold it. I'm very happy that we're not on air, but that we're broadcasting or being viewed by really thousands and thousands of people, many more now than we had when we were on channel 2, then 13, then 45. So anyway, who was talking?
Mark was jumping in.
Mark, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
No. Andrew, I'm going to turn the gavel over to you, Andrew. Go ahead, Mark.
So I also am a free speech absolutist. I think, let me just start off with the idea that Joe Biden somehow told YouTube what to do is just absurd. It's ridiculous.
Except they admitted it, Mark.
Look, YouTube bans a lot of people, and they've done it from the beginning of their organization. Right, left, in between, things they don't like to see, they've taken it off of YouTube. But the reality is that this is free speech is something that is a bedrock principle of this democracy. People can say what they want. You can't threaten somebody, say we're going to kill you, do things like that on air or any kind of place in free speech. But free speech is part of who we are.
Yes.
We gave that to the planet. That's who we are. So, and I think that the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing is just blown all out of proportion just because he's on television.
Well, I also think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I also think his ratings were down. Why aren't we looking at that? Why does it have to be only what he said that took him off? His ratings are down. His ratings were lower than Colbert's. His ratings are lower than Gutfeld, who is on the Republican side. So his ratings are low. Why can't it just be that?
Well, it wasn't just be that to begin with.
Let me point out, Billy. Hold on, Billy. Before Kimmel's firing, his typical audience was like 1.8 million people. Tuesday night, Kimmel racked up, for your information, 26 million viewers across YouTube and Instagram, and 6 million on regular TV. Okay,
yeah.
so.
And let's not discount the possibility that ABC said, you know something, we're going to take him off the air. We're going to create this narrative that we yanked because he was going to say, and then we're going to put him back on, and it's going to be like when Hugh Grant went on the Tonight Show and what's his name, rocketed ahead of Letterman. Jay Leno rocketed ahead of Letterman. I mean, if we could just dispense with something real quick, because Billy, I love you. We don't want to use the fire in a crowded theater limitation on free speech, because that case was overturned by the Supreme Court, and it was a case that was being used to justify the censorship of socialists during World War I. It was very bad. It was bad case law then, and thankfully was overturned. But what Mark points out is the limit for speech generally and government involvement is defamatory speech, speech that is threatening, speech that essentially violates the rights of others. This is more of an internal situation having to do with, and again, like a lot of these firings, I'm not someone who likes the idea that people get fired, but at some point in time, if you're going to say horrible things, I know we got to go. Your employer may not like the horrible things that you're saying, and your employer has the right to terminate someone or separate somebody from you if you're going to say horrible things. Part of free speech means there are risks that are going to be taken if you're going to speak the truth to people.
All right, stop. We're going to take a break for just a minute. Interesting discussion. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Attorney General Pam Bondi and what she's been ordered to do by President Trump. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, and Aimee, this will be the first time you meet the voice of Square Off, and we're all on camera when he's speaking. So there he is, Howard Mallison. Look at you, the voice of Square Off.
Hi, Aimee. Welcome. The law firm of Barry Glazer specializes in personal injury, medical malpractice, and nursing home neglect. Barry's creative TV commercials have made him very recognizable, because Barry tells it like it is. In fact, check out his words of wisdom on Facebook. He's got some very, very interesting views. Barry and his team have an in-house doctor and nurse on staff. So call Barry before you call the insurance company. Barry gets you the compensation you deserve. He's that good. So give the law firm of Barry Glazer a call at 410-547-8568 and let them know you heard about them on Square Off. With so many cars on the road and distracted drivers everywhere, auto accidents are going to happen. And if you've experienced an accident, the insurance companies can't tell you where to take your car. That's why more and more drivers are trusting their auto repairs and maintenance to leading edge auto body and mechanical repair. They're the best. They work on all makes and models and offer free pickup and delivery anywhere in the Baltimore area. So call them at 410-443-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in Mount Washington. They make your car look and run like new again. Now back to you, Rich.
All right, Howard, thank you. And Annabelle and I take our cars only to the wonderful guys down there with Jeff and the guys and Dan and, oh well, anyway, let me move on. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution supposedly guarantees freedom of speech. Well, as we said in segment one, it's under attack by President Trump and his administration. Trump calls journalists, quote, the enemy of the people, and he's ordered Attorney General Pam Bondi to target hate speech, all but shrugging off the First Amendment. So what do you guys have to say about that? Aimee, you've told me what you think about this and what happened. What?
Well, I have not really watched news for years because
Congratulations.
Definitely, I always I get very negative feelings when I watch the news. There's nothing, of course, I am on social media, so I get bits and pieces and can look if I want to look and if I want to read. I don't think freedom of speech should be at all taken away. I don't really know how. I have not been adverse in this incident that might be going on to really give a feeling, but I hope that that is not true. I really would hope that Trump would not take away our freedom of speech.
Okay. Jump in, Bill.
Well, I think what we're seeing is basically Trump taking over the entire executive branch in a way that only the unitary theory of presidential power will permit. And that theory has been adopted very suddenly by the Supreme Court. And so that gives him total power to hire and fire and to supervise at his pleasure. That's not been the America of the past. The America of the past separated the Justice Department from the president because it was believed, and I think correctly so, that the president should not have the power that Trump has to target people, for example, either for their speech or for crimes that don't exist, because then that's an act of terror. And so when the attorney who was doing this investigation said, I don't see the meat on these bones, then Trump acted in a naked way that has never been done before. And that is, he ordered that man to be prosecuted. He ordered him to be indicted. And that's just simply absolutely wrong. That's a power of a king. That's why we had the Magna Carta. That's why we had all kinds of checks on the power of kings. But he's ruined the guardrails. He is a king, and there are no guardrails.
Billy, do you know the date of the Magna Carta?
I think it was in the 1100s, maybe the 1000s.
1215.
All right, so it was a little later than I thought.
Well, wait, let me say this. Attorney General Bondi was asked if the Justice Department will be cracking down on groups that engage in hate speech. Here is her response, quote, "We will absolutely target you, go after you. If you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything, and that's across the aisle."
Well, that's a violation of the First Amendment.
Right, that's a total violation of the First Amendment.
Yes.
Well, okay, but let's be really clear here. The accretion of power in the federal executive branch has been coming for a very long time. I mean, well, not coming. I mean, it ebbs and flows. So between the 1930s and the 1990s, there was a massive amount of concentration of power in the federal executive branch, and then finally in the 1990s, the Supreme Court said that there were limits to that centralized power. Now, on the one hand, Donald Trump, we have to recognize that the executive branch is the executive branch, and Donald Trump is the chief executive of the executive branch. And one of the things that Trump has been doing is working overtime to lessen the power and reach and scope of that federal power in ways that, again, this is not whataboutism. This is about, two halves of the same coin. Joe Biden and Barack Obama were both doing when they were president, and you could see the size and scope of federal power objectively grow. And let me just say this one thing, just getting back to the YouTube example that we talked about earlier. and getting to, Barack Obama in his last days in office. It was Barack Obama in a White House meeting that essentially gave the green light to having Team Trump investigated, and the FBI showing up in the West Wing in the early days of the first Trump administration. But, under Obama, they had this activity where they were pressuring banks and credit card payment processors to shut down the accounts of things that they were ideologically opposed to. It was a thing called Operation Choke Point. And so the same kind of pressure was being brought to bear on these social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, et cetera. That's why Zuckerberg gave his mea culpa. So I disagree categorically that Donald Trump is a per se king or an authoritarian, or that there is anything new in terms of the ways that Donald Trump is asserting his power as chief executive, as opposed to, his predecessors.
Go ahead, Mark.
I think Donald Trump is very clear about who he is. He's made it clear. You just look at his coach over the years. He's an authoritarian to his core. That's what he believes in. That's how he thinks things will run. It's his word and nobody else's. So people around him who don't agree, they're gone. And I think that I think Trump is the single greatest threat to our democracy in my lifetime.
Absolutely.
I could not disagree more. And
I'm so shocked.
And I say this,
I'm shocked.
And I say this,
Wait,
and
I
say it. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. You're right.
Aimee, what were you trying to say? And let's hear it.
I disagree with that as well. I think that there are some things that I wish Trump would not say. I think that's with every. When he was at the memorial service, when he had said that he hated his opponents, I thought that I disagreed with that. I did not feel that stood with what Charlie Kirk was always talking about, was not to hate. And I do think that when he is in front of a camera, he is a different person. But when I feel behind the scenes, I feel that he is very much smart, and he does have our country in his best interest.
Mark, what were you saying?
I'm saying I'm not so sure how bright Trump is. I think Trump, the reason he's successful is because he knows how to bring people around him who know how to get things done the way he wants them done. He has a lot of bright people around him. There's no question. And when you listen to Trump speak, if he was one of my students back in the days when I was in the classroom, I'm gonna go, somebody has to help this poor guy, and because he's really not that bright. He doesn't know what he's doing. But he has charisma, and he throws out all kinds of jargon that is deeply racist and dangerous to the future of who we are. And I think that we're in this place. To me, it's almost, I feel like we're facing as if the Klan Redux has taken power in America under Trump.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because look, he's rolling back every civil rights enactment. Charlie Kirk believed that the black people were not entitled to protection after the Civil War. He has said that overtly.
All right,
those
that's
are his
not
words.
what Charlie Kirk said. I'm sorry.
Oh, bullshit.
It is not what
It
he
is.
said.
It is.
No.
And you want me to give you the quotes? I'll give you the quotes. His own words. He said Martin Luther King was an evil man, that he should not have had power. He should not be revered for anything. He said that we were not entitled under the Constitution to have equal rights. He said that the Civil Rights Act. Hold on. Yeah, I'm quoting him because I had to collect the quotes yesterday in preparation for this. And so he told Taylor Swift to obey her husband, that she had no power. I mean, he's a sexist and he's a racist. Now, Donald Trump said that if you say anything about him, he's going to target you.
All right, Billy.
That's what the emperors do. That's what dictators do. That is not what democratically elected presidents should be doing. Now, there's a model. One last point I want to make. If you look at Hungary, that is his model for what he wants this country to be.
He loves Viktor Orban.
Yes, he does. And so if you think that's a democracy, I feel sorry for you.
All right, we're gonna come back to you, but we need to take a quick break. because we have two other wonderful sponsors. We'd like you to solicit all of our sponsors. Here's the voice to square off once again, Howard Mallison.
Thank you, Richard. Dr. Kelly Gagan is a well-respected board-certified podiatrist and heel specialist. Foot problems can happen at any age, and Dr. Gagan knows that the appearance of your feet matter just as much as correcting any problem. So if you may be a candidate for laser treatments that can solve that issue, they're safe, painless, and go right to the cause. And you can believe me because I'm a satisfied patient. So is Richard. Give Dr. Gagan a call at 410-753-4422 to set up an appointment. You know, Baltimore's a great diner town, and the Double T diners year after year are voted #1 in reader polls. TT stands for totally terrific. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you can't beat the enormous menu selection that will bring you back again and again. There's Double T locations on Route 40 West, Perry Hall, White Marsh, Bel Air, Laurel, Annapolis, Pasadena, and the EC Diner in Ellicott City. Plus, try By the Docks in Middle River for their Monday night lobster special. They have also other specials during the week, like the rib specials and some other things that you'll enjoy, all part of the Double T family. Tell me I heard about them on Square Off. Back to you, Rich.
Now, for those of you who would like to see my feet, we'll have a showing.
I would not like to see your feet.
All right, well.
Not that kind of show.
Really, keep your shoes on.
All right, we're going to move into something later. Aimee, you wanted to make a comment, and then I want to spend a few minutes talking about the end of the Baltimore Orioles season. We'll leave the Ravens off the conversation for now. Aimee, what were you going to say about that comment?
I had so much I wanted to say. Charlie Kirk was wonderful for our country, and I wish that his life was not distinguished as early as it was, but the movement of Christianity is definitely on fire right now. And so that's one thing about Trump that I am very happy about, is that they pray in that White House, where we haven't seen that in years. And I feel, as a Christian in this country, praying in public, my daughter in public school was told not to pray before her meal, which is something we did as a family, that I'm glad will be part of the freedom of speech regarding that as well. Because I think Charlie really touched a lot of lives, and he's going to get more followers than Jimmy Kimmel ever will.
All right. Now, listen.
By the way, do you think Trump is behaving like a Christian? Does he believe in loving thy neighbor as thyself? Does he believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ? No, he does not. He is a false Christian, and he is attracting ordinary Christians because he talks in some ways like he's a Christian. He does not behave in any way like a Christian.
Well, listen, I think we all fall short in the.
No. Falling short is where you are trying your best to be. He is not trying his best to be a great Christian. You cannot compare him in any way to someone who follows the teachings of Jesus Christ.
He found his Christian roots when he wanted the evangelical vote. That's all he had.
That's right.
Listen,
he's never been a Christian.
Well, all right. Again, I'm far be it for me to sort of peer under the kimono of Donald Trump and determine anybody.
You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that.
The bottom line here.
Look, he's naked. He is out there. You see everything he thinks and what he does. He promised he was going to be a dictator from day one. All of you on the right conveniently don't repeat that.
Billy,
and he is rolling into it.
Once again, Billy, the objective measurement, I'm sorry, but the objective measurement in terms of the accretion of power into the executive branch, if Donald Trump is an authoritarian, then he's the worst authoritarian ever, because authoritarians don't actively try to give up the power that the executive branch has, which is what he has been doing. It's what he did.
Power has he given up? What are you talking about?
Yeah, what power?
All right. The expression of executive branch power is the power that it has to interfere in the daily lives of individuals, right? That's the regulatory power of the administrative state.
That's
Donald Trump in his first term.
That's a very narrow way to interpret.
I don't think it's narrow at all, because it gets to the root of the issue. If you have a federal executive branch and it's cloaked in enormous power, right, then that power can be abused in many, many ways. But if you're going out there and you are doing what you can to dismantle that power in the way that it can be abused and used, etc., then it is by definition no longer
what he does is
anti-authoritarianism.
Dismantling power.
Let him finish.
Wait a minute, Richard. He dismantles power that tries to protect the environment, that protects civil rights, that protects people's rights in this country. That's the kind of power he wants to destroy. That's what he does. This man, he was never, ever in his life a Christian. He never spoke about God.
We are talking about two separate things here. Right. One is the issue of whether or not he's an authoritarian, and the other one is whether or not he's a Christian. I think we can take those two things separately.
He's admitted he's an authoritarian. He's admitted it.
No, he has said and he has joked, in the same way that other presidents
joked.
Barack Obama said, "I have a phone and a pen." Right? Barack Obama, within the first 2 years of the Obama administration, they had set up a hotline for people to report on their neighbors and the information that their neighbors were sharing. They had a website called Attack Watch, where you could submit things if you didn't like what your neighbors were saying to the White House. And once again, I heard boo from my friends on the left in reaction to what Barack Obama was doing in this regard.
Barack Obama never said,
Really?
I'm going to be a dictator from day one.
Right.
He wants to be one because he said he wants to be one.
Well, Barack Obama
is acting like one. He is moving in that direction more and more.
We've been talking about, Billy.
Hold it.
Let me add one more thing.
No, wait, Billy.
All right, fine.
Billy. My goodness. Aimee.
It's your show, Richard.
It used to be. Aimee,
sorry, Richard.
Now it's the Billy Murphy Show. And my rate as an attorney are very reasonable. Your firstborn will do. Aimee, did you want to Aimee, say something you wanted to say about Trump and Christianity?
I have not spoken to President Trump specifically to in person. And I don't know if maybe Billy or Mark has, but I am not, as a Christian, I do not ever say somebody is not a Christian who says that they are. As Andrew said, we all fall short, and we have our own personalities, and we have to figure out how to live our lives as Christians and what God would want us to do. And I think that's where Charlie Kirk was very good for President Trump, because I think that he would call President Trump out if he felt he was derailing from Christianity. And all I'm saying is it is very refreshing to see praying back in our White House.
Final word from you, Billy, then we got to go. We're into our fourth hour.
If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So when you are looking at whether someone practices what they preach, just look at their behavior. That's all you have to do.
Amen. Thank you very much, Billy. Thank you, Mark Steiner. Thank you so much, Andrew Langer. And Aimee Schafer, you did very well on your debut here on Squirrel. Now, I want to talk about the O's, but we went way over. They closed out their homestand, as you know, last Thursday, and they came from behind with after Kobe Mayo hit 2 in the bottom of the 8th.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the bottom of the 9th, the walk-off homer by Dylan Beavers, and hope the Orioles have a great winter and come back alive and placing in the playoffs. So anyway, we're delighted to have you here at squareoff.net. Tell your friends about it. We're online there at squareoff.net. You can see us there. And you can see us on YouTube at, what is it, Howard? Watch Square Off?
YouTube at Square Off Show.
Say again?
YouTube at Square Off Show.
Okay, you could have come on camera to say that and gave the ladies another thrill, but
YouTube at Square Off Show.
Wow. What more can I say?
Did you say YouTube at Square Off Show?
I said YouTube at Square Off Show.
Wait, YouTube at Square Off Show?
I thought you said YouTube at Square Off Show. I thought you said that. Yes.
I did. I did see a putty tat.
What did he say, Richard? YouTube at Square Off Show? I need to write that down.
Me too. YouTube at Square Off Show. We got it. We'll put it up. I'll send a blast out about that.
I'm telling you.
I have that too tattooed on my chest. Aimee, good show.
Can't have tattoos.
Andrew, thanks. Billy and Mark. We'll see you next time.
Oh, wait a minute. Who's going to win the game tonight or Sunday night, Sunday afternoon? Who's going to win it?
I don't want to tell you.
Ravens.
No, I think we got a bad defensive line. I don't think we have a shot.
How about the offensive line?
I want the Ravens.
Yeah, we got a bad one of those too. I don't think we have a shot to win against Kansas City on Sunday. I hope I'm wrong. I really do.
It's funny. Yeah. They're 3.5-point favors. I don't know why. The Ravens are. I don't get that.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to lose this last game because we can't win a game without a game-wrecking defensive lineman. And we can't win a game without a really strong offensive line. Games are won in the trenches. We don't have that power like we used to.
Well, and on that note,
you missed your calling, Billy. You should have been a sports announcer.
Hey guys, we're going to pause for a week. We'll have a brand new show next week, and we're featuring an exclusive 30-minute interview with Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates, who is doing a terrific job. The stats prove it, and we'll be here. And once again, we square off unless you want to stay another hour and talk about, whatever. See you guys. See you next time. Bye.